What happens when one of the pioneers of conversion rate optimization says we are focusing on all the wrong things? How do you react to that? Today, I'm honored to have the legendary Bryan Eisenberg on the show. He helped build the entire field of CRO back when the internet and the website were just getting started. We talk about his powerful personal story behind his new book, I Think I Swallowed an Elephant, and discuss why empathy and storytelling are more critical than ever in this age of AI. Bryan even shares an experiment he did where a single press release instantly became the truth for AI models like ChatGPT. So if you care about being discovered by LLMs, tune in for that story. This is a masterclass in marketing fundamentals from someone who's seen it all. So let's get into the episode. But before we start, I have a quick announcement. As you'll hear in my conversation with Bryan, the digital world is changing faster than what feels comfortable for most people. AI is shifting user expectations. There's a lot to keep up with. And I speak to so many businesses whose websites who are built for yesterday's web, poorly built for yesterday's web, and they're already at risk of being left behind in this new AI era. This is more than a simple technical issue. It's a business problem that impacts your conversions, your reputation, and your future relevance and discoverability. This is exactly why I am starting to offer a new service, the Foundational Website Audit. That's not about chasing trends. It's not about quick hacks. No hacks. It's about getting the fundamentals right to prepare for tomorrow's opportunities. The audit is a comprehensive, deep dive built on 3 pillars, ensuring your website is in impeccable technical health, mapping the key user journeys, and making sure you are ready for the future of AI. So if you feel like your website could be doing a bit of a better job for you than it is, but you're not sure where to start, I'd love to chat. The best way to connect with me is on LinkedIn, so just search for my name, send me a connection request, and mention you heard about the audit of the podcast. And let's get the conversation started. And now, let's dig into the episode with the one and only Bryan Eisenberg. Bryan, welcome to No Hacks. An extremely huge pleasure to have you on the podcast.
I'm honored to be here. It says no hacks, and you're inviting a hack on, so I don't.
No, I will not allow that. I am the host. I will not allow things like that on this podcast. Let's talk about your new book. I Think I Swallowed an Elephant. It's very difficult to find a more intriguing title for a book. If you look at Amazon, if you scroll Amazon for hours, you probably will find a few books with a more intriguing title, if that. What's the story behind that metaphor? How does it connect to the business world of today, to CRO, to anything else?
It's funny because I've had several friends who came at me saying they hated the title, and we were completely open at this point in our career. We're no ego. We were like, okay, let's start exploring to see if we can come up with something different. It was just an inspiration that came to me one day. Everyone obviously knows the expression, how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. So play on that. But I felt like I had swallowed an elephant. Those that know me from the industry for a very long time know that about 20 years ago, I had ballooned up to 277 pounds, and that's when we left our CRO agency, Future Now. And in 10 months, I dropped over 100 pounds. And over the last few years, I started gaining some of it back. And of course, after COVID, I wasn't speaking as much. I wasn't active as much, wasn't in the community as much. And I was also dealing with some family stuff. So my brother had a number of illnesses. He's been my business partner for 30 years. So a number of health scares. And I was feeling like a lot of people out there. I was overwhelmed. I literally, there were days I couldn't get off the couch. If it wasn't for my dog, I probably wouldn't have even walked outside. Some days I couldn't even get off the couch to shower. It was a struggle. I was definitely dealing with some depression. About a year ago today, in July, so a little over a year ago, I went ahead and I got a blood test. And that blood test revealed that my blood sugar was 3 times the normal level. Okay, obscenely high. Blood pressure. And it only took me swallowing that elephant and changing my lifestyle through, guess what? no hacks, sticking with core fundamentals, that I regained my life. I got mental clarity again. I no longer needed naps throughout the day.
Mm.
No more aches and pains. My blood sugar normalized into the 70 to 80 milliliters per day. Everything was normal again. And I had such mental clarity that I knew that I wanted to share some of this. And so I didn't do it when I lost all the weight the first time. And it's funny because when I lost the weight the first time, I did it because of a story that was driving me, which was I had spent so many years focused in on our agency and building up the concept of CRO into the world that I wasn't looking after myself. And so I ballooned up. It was a lot of stress, to the point where when we hit the New York Times bestseller list with Call to Action and then Waiting for Your Cat to Bark within a year, we barely got a chance to celebrate because my dad had passed, my grandmother had passed, my uncle, like, it was a lot. And I'm seeing that more and more in today's world. People feel overwhelmed, whether it's just so much going on at work, doom scrolling, algorithms changing every week, new tools coming out, the pressure to succeed. We're overwhelmed. We all have silent elephants that we swallow. And I just wanted to make people understand that, yeah, you can overcome them. You just have to focus in on the right thing and on the right story. And for me, that story became very simple because I had a choice when I got the blood work, which was either I can go immediately on medication, the easy way, the hack way,
Yeah.
to get healthy. But I told my nurse practitioner, I said, give me 3 weeks. Let me see what I can do in 3 weeks. And in 3 weeks, I halved my sugar and some of the symptoms started changing. And like I said, then I got a CGM and give me a little bit of data, and I hacked everything. I tweaked every little behavior, and I made some small changes that completely changed my life. And since then, I'm nonstop energy, morning till night.
I love that.
And this book, I've written 11 books. Writing concisely, every chapter is 250 to 400 words. They're bite size. But with depth is one of the hardest things to be able to do. And it's the first time in my life I felt the clarity to be able to do that.
That is such a wonderful story. Also, the change you made in your life, the blood sugar thing. Whenever there's a challenging situation, most people know what they should be doing to get out of it. That's the beauty. Almost everyone knows.
Correct.
For example, to lose weight, you know what to do. Just eat less, eat healthy, and just move. That's how simple it is.
But here's the thing that boggles a lot of people's minds.
Mhm.
I was still, even through all of it, I was still averaging a little over 9,000 steps a day.
Right.
Well above normal
Yep.
people. So I was still getting that in. I was eating plant-based and minimally processed food. I should be healthy. So what was blowing up my sugar? Obviously, it was a lot of the stress that I was internalizing, a lot of the cortisol that would affect that. But I couldn't get enough protein in that I needed to do it. I was getting fiber, but probably not enough. And then the biggest behavior change for me was my walks tended to be one big one in the morning, right? And I'd go with my dog, and then another smaller one in the afternoon. Now I started breaking it up. So after every meal, right, lunch, I'll go out and I'll take a 15-minute walk. And just that small hack really did make a huge impact.
That's
But it's
such a beautiful
fundamentals.
story. Fundamentals. It's always about the fundamentals will not get you to 100%, but to 80, 90, 95 easily, and it will work for anyone. That's the beauty of the fundamentals. This is what, I mean, no hacks. This is exactly what it is, fundamentals. Your career is about as diverse as anyone who has graced CRO industry with their presence. So you help companies like Google, Disney. Now you're hosting a local podcast, and we'll talk about that. You co-own senior care business. Am I correct? So if you look back, is there a common thread to all of those things that you have done over the last 30 plus years?
The common thread is actually just one. And now that I think about it, it's one word: empathy. Empathy. I think it's something I was naturally born with. My brother was always the finance guy, but I was the one who got pulled out of social work school, and I was working as a therapist and working with chronically mentally ill. And he brought me into sales and marketing, and the internet started just growing when we first got into this. And my power was in understanding how users would experience what they see on the screen, how they would want to buy. I could step into their shoes and really relate to them. And I had to do that with people who were schizophrenic, who believed that there was hay burning in the closet next to
Right.
them, or they heard voices, or that they felt like they had a little tooth in their throat. That was their reality.
Right.
And when you can step into another person's reality and you can share that moment with them, whether it's virtual or in person, that's how you support a community. And that's been everything we've tried to do, I guess, my whole career.
Great answer. So the key to life is empathy, is what you're saying? Or should be empathy?
I think it's one of those. Not everybody has it. It's we talked about this in Waiting for Your Cat to Bark, the golden rule, right? A lot of people know the golden rule as he who has the gold rules. That's one way to look about it, right? So if you think about it, your customer has the money, then they make the rules.
Yeah.
But we looked at it a different way. It's like, this is a story my brother talks about. He was at our friend Lisa's house. Lisa was the co-author of that book with us, and she was one of our editors at Future Now. And he asked for some toast. And of course, Lisa made the toast the way she likes toast, not the way he likes his toast. And the point was very simple, and we used that story in the book. It's if you really want to understand people, you need to walk a mile in their shoes,
Yep.
as they say. And so what do they value? What's most important to them? And when you start looking at the world that way, I think people look at you differently. I think people understand that you actually do care about them. You want to see them shine. You want to see them succeed. And we've been fortunate that, yes, you've mentioned some very big brands that we've worked with, but it's the individual businesses that we've impacted that have changed their lives. That, to me, is way more valuable.
I completely agree. So for someone who's listening to this who doesn't know, it's fair to say you're a pioneer of CRO, one of the pioneers, the pioneer, whatever you want to call it. So you've been doing it with persuasion architecture since late 90s, which is when it wasn't even CRO. The name
Yeah, so
is...
so it's funny, in Persuasive Online Copywriting, which we published in
Yep.
2001, 2002, you can see the subtitle, How to Take Your Word to the Bank, with an afterword on how to increase your website's conversion rates. But the
Okay.
term conversion rate optimization came a little after that. We published it in ClickZ. I know there's others who claim they invented the term. We went with Tone one day, and I actually showed him all the documentation. He's no doubt about it. Yeah, we were always talking about how the emperor had no clothes,
Mhm.
CLOSE, back in the .com days. So very early internet, we were involved in an incubator, and all these people were getting funded for these eyeball businesses. Someone who was trying to sell one-off, what do you call it, the fancy china and stuff like that. It was just like complex business.
Outrageous, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, shipping those was a lot of fun. But anyway, we helped them understand that information architecture, how people would choose, how to design. And we first started with this, there was no continue shopping buttons on the internet. Okay. It was one of the very first articles that kind of went viral for us early on in the very early days. Yeah, I always tell people it was a much easier time to be in business because there was no content, there was nobody
Right.
in the industry. And so we were able just to produce, I think the number that we ended up with was well over 2 million words online.
Before Gen AI. That's a
Before
very important
Gen
thing to
AI.
say.
Yeah.
Gen
And
AI.
here's a funny story a lot of people don't know. Jeffrey and I were just talking about this the other day. We had a third partner. His name was David. And David would help us with our articles. He'd also help edit and all of that. We were all working together. And we finally got the chance to write our weekly column for ClickZ, which was the big internet marketing website back in the day. They're the ones who eventually also launched Search Engine Strategies, first big search conferences. So a lot came from there. We had started in some of the newsletter forums, the iSales and the ISEO and all that way before that. But we finally got to write for ClickZ. And David one day comes to us and says, I don't know if we're going to be able to keep doing this. I don't know how we're going to write a weekly column. We've been putting out content for 26, 27 years. So
Incredible.
he was concerned about 6 months. He wasn't a partner for very much longer, but yeah.
So about those old days, what is the one thing that we don't have in CRO today, in marketing today, that you wish was still a part of the industry?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I don't know if there's something that we don't have today. There's a
Other
lot
than
more
empathy,
tools
obviously.
today
Yeah.
than there ever were. And I think too many people depend on the tools, and the tools they think matter more than the words. And at the end of the day, what we found with, and we documented it in our trainings when we used to teach our analysts, well over 1,500 variables that can impact on a website.
Mm-hmm.
We broke them down into 40 main categories that we put in always be testing. The number one thing that has always had the biggest impact is your messaging.
Yep.
Whether it's
And
micro messages or the macro message or your global messaging, your marketing and your branding and all that, the messaging is the number one most powerful variable you have. It is, hold on, it is the elephant
I love
of
that.
variables.
For audio only listeners of this podcast, Bryan just pulled up a tiny little elephant.
You could
Yes.
swallow this one technically. No, yeah.
You shouldn't, but you could.
But you could, yes.
That is such a great answer. And like you said, a lot of consultants and agencies have an over reliance on tools these days, especially with ChatGPT is a tool that kind of is everywhere. So
Yep.
it's gotten significantly worse with AI, wrapper companies, and all that stuff. We don't need that. We need to understand the person we're selling to, and the messaging. Like I said, it's more important than design, in my opinion. I completely agree with that. Than anything else, it's the
Anything
right
else.
message to the right person at the right moment, and that is most of it done well.
Look, we've seen
Yep.
horribly designed websites
That
perform
convert, yeah.
exceptionally well. And look, we'll point to horribly designed website number one was Amazon.
Yes, it still is. Let's be fair.
Yeah, it's not the greatest designed website, right? But it still converts at over 22 times better for prime customers than any other average website out there. Period.
And that's a huge difference. Before we get to the lightning round, you had a lively debate on LinkedIn recently. You sent me that in an email, sent me a screenshot. I saw the comments. So could you explain that and why you thought that was a really good thing to add to this episode? I completely agree, by the way. So yeah, can we hear the story?
So it comes back to what you just asked, right? I posted about something that we've said since our earliest mentors in sales and marketing. Facts tell and stories sell. Okay? How you explain what you do, the story you sell behind it works. And this guy went on to talk about how I was conning people with stories, capitalizing the word con. It was humorous. He said, I go back to my old always be testing days, right? Where everything was just more scientific and all of that. We've tested tens of thousands of tests.
Exactly.
The stories, the messages, they sell better than anything, period. And he goes on to talk about an example for himself where he went to this doctor, and the doctor was this runner, and he was going to inject his own cells in him. But I was like, the doctor didn't explain the science behind how they extract the cells, how they process them, where exactly they're going to put it. None of that. He just said, oh, he's a runner. It's your own blood work. That's story. Simplified for him.
Exactly.
And so I found it so humorous because here is somebody who thinks he's logical, but people always make decisions emotionally. And he got emotional about a blog post talking about the value of storytelling because I see this all the time. And I'll give you a great example. I met a friend of mine here locally. He's been helping founders for years in previous businesses and stuff like that. But what he does is he takes their stories, and because of AI today, he'll go out and he'll help share their stories. And he called it the AI organic content cascade. It's a mouthful. Now, you and I probably understand that, but the typical founder who's an engineer or someone who's near shoring or he does all that didn't understand a word he said. And so I'm sitting there at the cafe with him, and he sees my eyes go off into the distance. And I come back to him. I say, Fernando, what you're doing, you should call viral genius. He looks at me. And then I go to ChatGPT, great use of AI. And on movies, you see the rated PG
Yeah.
symbol on them, right? I said, let's turn that into rated VG. Why? Rated viral genius. It's content, so people will relate to that. And VG has a third layer, which if you're in grade school, VG is very good. It just visualizing it, it puts it together. And he goes to me, he said, I don't get it. And I said, look, what you're doing is you're tapping into the zone of genius of these founders. Every entrepreneur, every founder has their own zone of genius, right? You have your own zone of genius. And I tap into that, and then I consume all that content. He interviews them in a great style, asks great questions, and then he breaks it down into little chunks so that he has the opportunity to share that content throughout social media. I said, you're creating viral chunks out of it. He's okay, and he lived with it, and he went through it. He was broke. I didn't know how broke he was, but he was broke. All of a sudden, he got invited to speak on multiple stages about this. He had more clients than he could handle. He's looking to hire somebody. All because we just changed 2 words to his full story. Didn't even change anything else behind it. Just starting to call it the viral genius framework. Because those words, that image, told so many stories in such rapid succession to people's brains that they bought instantly. Instead of trying to explain, oh, I interview and I run it through my AI and my custom viral genius framework.
Yeah, because especially something as dry as anything that's Gen AI. And Gen AI is just by nature, it's dry. Anyone can do it. There's no soul behind it.
Correct.
If you can attach a story to that, and then you can scale it using AI,
yes,
you might have a winner. Without a personal touch, it's difficult.
Or let's talk about in Google search language, right? In EAT, they're looking for experiences.
Yep.
Experiences, stories.
Yep.
They're stories. That's all it is. So start sharing your experiences, connecting with people. You and I together at this time, we're sharing a moment. We can talk about this specific moment.
I couldn't even count how many times I sounded smart because I quoted what someone told me after or before we recorded a podcast episode, after 4.5 years. It's just, if you have that seed of creative, original, whatever else, making it viral becomes significantly easier. You cannot just take a air and make that viral. It just doesn't, it's not supposed to work like that. I guess you could. I guess people do that. But if you have that genius seed of virality or whatever you want to call it,
yep,
VG, it is significantly easier to do something great, to sound smart, to connect with people over that. It is the best possible device. Are you ready for a lightning round? We have 4 questions, I think.
Okay, let me get a drink.
20 seconds each. Yes. They're not difficult.
Okay. Yes, we're ready.
An easy one to begin with. What is the worst CRO or marketing advice you keep hearing today in 2025?
The worst CRO and marketing advice, it's probably the same thing, right? It's focusing in on the tool above the messaging. And 90% of your CRO you can do by spending more time listening to your customers than anything else. And if you just did that, you'd probably be okay.
Exactly. Speaking of tools, if there's one that you cannot live without, whatever it is, it could be something as basic as Gmail, whatever. What is that tool?
Wow. Probably my favorite tool today would be a video editor. I think today you just need to be able to get out there and do things. And I use several depending on where I am, or everything from CapCut to Camtasia. So it really depends. But I think we are in a world where video is a lot more authentic. And so we definitely need to be doing a lot more of it. And so I think a video editor today is probably going to be my number one toolbox for most marketers.
And just putting yourself in front of a camera and doing video content.
Yeah,
that is extremely important.
Won't do anything. You have to fill it with your content.
Exactly. Okay, now, if a younger version of Bryan from late 90s, mid 90s could see your LinkedIn profile today, leaving aside that they would not know what LinkedIn was because it didn't exist back then, what would be the most surprising thing for young Bryan to see?
That's so easy to answer, unfortunately.
Okay.
All the books I've written.
Okay.
I had a boss when I was a social worker named Fred. Fred was a former priest who got thrown out of the church. He was an alcoholic. He ended
Hmm.
up living out on the street in the Bowery of New York City back in the days when it was dangerous.
Rough. Yeah.
And Fred was my manager at a independent living for people with mental illness. So they were scattered throughout all these buildings. And every week, Fred would come to me and literally he would ask me, when are you going to write your book? Now, mind you,
Oh,
in college and high school, I hated reading. I hated writing. I am sure any of my English teacher would look at this today and say, there's no way he's written 11 books, including multiple New York Times bestselling authors and Wall Street Journal books. Like, they couldn't fathom it.
but why did Fred think you would be doing that? You'd be writing books.
It's only in this last year that I've gotten that clarity. And I think and unfortunately, Fred passed, so I never got a chance to actually ask him. But I think it comes back to that empathy. I think he knew that a person's life is lived and there's stories within them. And those stories need to be shared because everybody thinks their story doesn't matter.
Hmm.
But every story matters. And I wasn't going to write another book. Okay. I wrote this book. Here's the honest truth because of one person. I don't know how big they are in Europe, but have you seen the Savannah Bananas and Jesse Cole and what he's been doing?
I will have to say no.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely worth looking. He has
Mm-hmm.
redefined the game of baseball, which he
Okay.
claimed was boring. And back in 2019, Jesse sent me a note, and he was part of a college summer team. Nobody was really paying that much attention to him or anything like that. But I noticed him on Twitter and I commented on something and he sent me a little gift box. In the gift box, he wrote me a nice, beautiful note and put some other of his gear in there. And I'm finally going to get him to meet him in person in November, the first time.
Nice.
He's coming here to Round Rock. And he wrote in that note that my book, Be Like Amazon, helped inspire his fans first mentality. He's worked also very closely with Gary Vee in terms of documenting everything he does. And now he's selling out football stadiums of 81,000 people, okay, with a waiting list of over 3 million people to see his show live. Games end in 2 hours automatically. They changed a bunch of the rules with millions and millions and millions of views online, right? YouTube, social media. It's crazy. Absolutely worth taking a look at. There's a lot to study on what he's doing. And he said something in there, which is a key component of my book. He said there was an exercise that we asked people to do in Be Like Amazon, which we talked about Simon Sinek and his famous TED clip, where start with why. And everybody thinks it's about your why. But in that clip, he uses the word belief more times than any other word. Your actions are a reflection of your beliefs. Okay? We all hold individual beliefs. And by being able to take those beliefs, and I had to change some of my beliefs in order to lose all that weight, in order to have that clarity. And when I realized that one book can have an impact on one person who's brought so much joy and fulfillment to millions, I needed to find a way to share that, even if it only reaches one person.
That's a wonderful story. Back to the belief part. There's a quote that says, "Whether you think you can or you can't, you're probably right." I'm not
Yep.
even going
Zig
to try to
Ziglar, I
guess.
believe.
Yes, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. That is absolutely true for almost everyone on Earth.
Yeah.
And belief in the fact that you can or cannot do something is what's going to get you there. I did not know Simon used belief more times than why. I did not pay attention. I saw the clip. And
Yep.
I mean, he made a career based on that.
Correct.
A wonderful, amazing career based on what he
Great
said in that
story.
clip. Great story. Exactly. And he's a good storyteller. It's not
Yes.
just, it's the delivery as well. The last one, what is a small decision you made at any point in your life that ended up opening a huge opportunity you did not even know would be there? A sliding doors moment.
We certainly made a lot of bad decisions as well. There's those. I think when we first started into marketing, we were doing all optimization, right? We were doing search optimization. We were back in the very early days when there was web position gold, and there were maybe 1,000 search marketers in the world, maybe that many. I don't even think there were that many. And I just spent more time trying to understand the sales part and understanding what different sites were doing that worked, that didn't work, that took in persuasion principles as I understood them at the time. And we were given this nickname at the incubator. That's where my Twitter handle comes from, the Grok, before Elon butchered it. But that's a whole different story. I get tagged for the strangest things every day now I can barely log in because, yeah. Anyway, the Grok was this term from Stranger in a Strange Land that Heinlein wrote that meant to understand something like at a deep cellular level, like really completely understood it. And this person at the incubator said that I grokked.com. I understood what was going on at such a fundamental level that I was explaining things that nobody had ever heard before. And that's where our original newsletter came from, grok.com. We had a little Martian character that we used for that. And we decided that was going to be the focus, is going to be the conversion work.
Right.
And he was right, just way too early for the business. It took a lot of years.
But do you think it helped to have that broader understanding of the web at that time before focusing on conversion? That had to be a good thing.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah. But we were all in on conversion. We burned the boats, all in on conversion. I think for a little while we had one gentleman who was helping us with some of the SEO still. Right. But for the most part, we focused everything on conversion optimization. And that was 1997, 98. And CRO, when we became bestsellers with Call to Action, which was our main book on everything CRO, that was 2005.
Yep.
That was a lot of years waiting for the market to catch up. And then all of a sudden, folks like Tim Ash and a bunch of others started coming along. Yep. But that was a long time in waiting. It was consequential, but it was a difficult decision at the time. And we thought we were right, but it took too long.
Everything does. Everything good takes too long. Other than generating a blog post with ChatGPT or an email with ChatGPT, everything that makes sense is going to take too long.
Or coming back to what we talked about, the fundamentals. My son's an athlete. I've written a book about his development in baseball. You don't get great overnight. It's repeating the fundamentals over and over and over again. And that's what life is all about, is just getting so good at the fundamentals that you can't miss. You can't make a mistake with them. Then you have opportunities to break the rules.
And I would just add, repeating the fundamentals when nobody's looking, when nobody's watching you. Because overnight success, it's just a fundamental story told over and over again, but nobody was watching.
Correct. It's what they do in dark rooms when nobody's watching. Yes. And it's the hard work, it's the ugly work, it's the meal prep I do every week to make sure I've got the right proteins and the right vegetables, and I don't have to make time to make a decision about what I'm going to cook today. Because I'm going to go home today and I know I've got broccoli and I've got leeks and I've got eggplant and I've got it all. I don't have to think about it.
Everything you need to have. Now, we not talk about AI automation and how that's impacting CRO, but marketing in general as well. So you ran an experiment recently with the press release that you got into the LLMs in time almost, right? Minutes. Tell me about that. Let's explain that to the audience and why this is an important example for how SEO is completely being changed with AI coming in and trying to break it almost.
Yeah, as I tell people, I've been in SEO a very long time, but local SEO is its own little beast. And of course, I think any great marketer today can't be an expert in everything, but they have to know who to talk to.
Yep.
And so before my wife and I moved to our offices, and I'm in my office now in the new location for her home care business, a place at Home North Austin, we had a shared office space that we were in. And when I asked Darren what I need to do to make sure I don't get my account suspended, right, or have to re-verify, he gave me an article that he wrote about it, and I said, okay, great, I'm going to follow it. And I started making all the changes. So I changed the state license, which literally just got approved a couple of days ago, but we submitted it early. We went to the business registry, so our agent here in Texas, and so I modified our business address there, modified it in all our social media, had our website done, our corporate franchise team changed the website address, so all of those things. The chamber, I'm a big part of the Round Rock Chamber. They changed it right away. I'm waiting, I'm looking at the index, I'm searching, trying to see when Google has finally indexed and cached these new citations with the new address. 2.5 weeks, nothing. And I'm like, when am I going to make this change? And Darren suggested you get a local guide, which I think is, by the way, very important. I'm a local guide as well, and I think it's important for anybody, especially in marketing and not in marketing. Support your community. Write reviews for your community. Become a local guide. Like, you can't do anything better than for your community than do that. And so he said, get a local guide to suggest the edit, and then you make the change, and it goes smoothly. So I was able to do all of that, but nothing was happening. So what was the final trick? I asked my friend Dave McInnes, and I'm an advisor to Newsworthy. I want to be straight up front with that. And I said, hey, what do you think if we run a press release talking about our expansion into our new office space? And he's and David was again, very early SEO. He's the one who built PR Web, which was a powerhouse for SEO in the last generation. And he's got a new technology, Newsworthy AI, that's tied to the blockchain and doing very unique stuff with AI. Again, we can go dig into that. But I ran this, and literally I got the notification that the press release was approved. And I said, oh, let me go to ChatGPT and ask it what my business's address is. Boom, correct address. Immediately.
Incredible. Yep.
I then had my son, we were driving somewhere. I said, can you check Gemini? He checked Gemini. He checked Google Overview. And it started repeating the stuff that's in the press release, not just the address, but about some of the best of Round Rock that we had wanted, other things that we said in there that became instantly the AI's truth because I paid for a press release.
What does that tell you about the future of visibility in general, in SEO as well? Do you think it's a good future or
I do actually.
Scary because of bad players?
No, so I think there's a couple of things. So number one, it tells me that Google understands the old index is dead and dying, and so they're not putting the same resources behind it. Okay, because we're talking about Facebook and MapQuest and like all these sites. They were not updating them. Like, okay, so there's something there. So I think obviously they're investing their resources on where AI is going. Typing queries, look, I remember the days when search used to be one keyword. Then it went to two, then it went to three, then it went to 4 to 5, then up to 7, and it just slowly progressed. Human language, normal language, is a much better interface, right? We've known that from the days of Star Trek, right? Let's talk to our computers. It works much better. And I definitely see search going in that direction. So I think, obviously, their investment in LLMs and in AI is vital for their success. But what it also tells me is everybody can put out content. Everybody was able to game links. Everybody was able to game everything else. You can't game ongoing reputation and ongoing press that comes from this. So I think the AI was able to see this news release and then was able to see, oh, yes, this exists in other places because it pulled it up from other places as well. It pulled it up from the chamber. Right. It did all of that. And now it was like, oh, that's the source of truth. And
to EAT that you mentioned earlier, this is why Google has been so critical about EAT, something you should take seriously. For years, they've been saying that this is something to take seriously. And now we see why.
Yeah.
Because LLMs, it's part of it at least.
Yeah, I was asked to speak by the head of the quality score team at Microsoft several years ago after an event that I spoke at SES, where I spoke about what I call the conversion trinity: relevance, value, and confidence in the call to action. And he really wanted me to spend the time on the relevance, because the way I was explaining relevance from the human point of view, he wanted me to explain that to his engineers. And that's all Google's been trying to figure out as well. Oh, real experiences are part of it. And I realized that in SEO many years ago. We had we still had our agency at that point. So you're talking about 2007. And I had put together a presentation called The Madmen of Search, talking about where big data was going and how it was going to change search. Because I had a client that was in the educational toy space. And no matter what they did, and as well optimized as everything they did, and all the rules that we know about SEO and all the link building, they could not get the number one spot. The number one spot went to Fisher Price.
Oh.
Okay. Which is the big brand in the space. Their website sucked. It was Flash. It was terrible. So what was Google using to say that was the number one spot? And they were right. It wasn't that they weren't right, but by everything they were telling webmasters,
It was wrong. Yep.
it was wrong. So what was right was, oh, would Google by chance have access to all this credit card information that's out in the world that you can buy by subscription?
Mm-hmm.
Could be. Ooh, might they have a chance to scan people's email confirmations when they buy things and see it in their email? Oh, that's a possibility. And when you start piecing together, oh, they've got browser data and Android data, and like they can piece together anything they want. How do they mimic? And this is something that the old CEO was saying. I'm blocking out his name for a moment. And he used to say, our job is to mimic what's happening in the real world.
Yeah.
And that's all they were doing.
I'll just add Google Analytics to that mix of things that
Correct.
they knew. The best free spy device that completely reshaped the internet and put Google in a position that they would not be in without Google Analytics. There's no question.
So back in the days when we were consulting to Google, we know for a fact there was a sign in someone's door that said that Google Analytics was installed on over 65% of all websites at that point.
Find me anything else that's on 65% of websites. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
CSS. Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe. That is, yeah. I want to ask you about Rocketbeat as well. This is a company you're advising for, right? That's
Correct.
your relationship with them. So they have an AI that ranks or scores startups based on how likely they're to succeed, something like a FICO score.
Correct.
What do they do? And what does that, to entrepreneurship in general, does that put small startups at risk because maybe they're not ready just yet, and this just says it's not worth investing in, and then they don't get the money? Or how is this going to help a small founder?
You weren't around in the days of the .com days when literally I'd walk into the founders of the incubator's desk
with money.
He was very over his head with pitches, like it was nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
In today's AI world, we're developing more startups faster and coming to delivered product faster than ever beforehand. Period. Yeah. Flat out simple. Investors are going to need a better tool to understand what startups make sense in investing in, right? Because obviously there's huge growth opportunities there. And I think from the startup founder's perspective, they need to understand what their risk profile actually looks like a credit score, right? You wouldn't go to buy a car or buy a house without knowing what your score is. And so it's the same thing. Before you go pitch, let this analyze your score. And my friend Juan Damian, who started the company, I've known him from the very early days of the Web Analytics Association. He was an analyst in Argentina, brought his company, sold it a couple times. He's done phenomenal. And he realized he was able to take all this data. And there are other companies giving people this algorithm. They say that scores them, and he's like, no, they talk about some of their variables, and he knows for a fact they had zero correlation to any funding or any growth or any success. So he's really done a tremendous amount of analysis using AI in this. And we just wanted to make this concept simple for people. So yeah, you just need that Rocketbeat score or the FICO score for startups and for investors. And same thing, if you're going to go pitch an investor, you should know how valuable of an investor they can be to you as well. And so we score them at the same time. Okay. And we do that globally. So you know who the right people you should be speaking to. If you've really got something good, it's going to make it easier.
Feels like an absolutely necessary tool at this time. Like you said, launching something and calling it a startup has never been easier. And recognizing the noise from the signal is extremely important these days, and probably getting more and more important as we go.
That's why that's the elephant in the room.
There you go. There you go.
We're overwhelmed with the noise. We need clarity and
Probably the
great
most important
stories
thing right
to
now.
cut
Probably the
through
most
it.
important. Probably the most important thing right now is being able to know what to focus on. Whoever solves that problem for humanity versus just the disease of more, which is where we have been going forever. I think that's capitalism. It's just basically let's create more, let's do more.
But
We
that's also what's gonna change in marketing real quickly. And I want to touch on that,
How's
right?
that? Yeah, I would love to hear because my next question was, is AI a threat to marketers' careers or is it going to help them? So I want to hear your
Yeah,
perspective.
I was having this conversation with a person who I had on my guest recently, Felicia Reed. She's a phenomenal portrait photographer here in Round
Mm-hmm.
Rock and a mindset coach, brilliant woman. And she was commenting about a brand and how they didn't have anybody that looked like her, right? She's an African American woman, little stocky, but she's in the gym. She's a strong woman, the curls and all. She said, why doesn't she see people like me? And I said, we're going to see is something that my mentor Roy Williams talked about, this pendulum that happens in marketing. And we're seeing a revolt starting just now. Just we're seeing the pieces of it. All these AI models, these AI bands that are coming out. How do you know who's real? How will you know who's real? And it's the real connection with people. It's seeing people who are authentic, who look and feel and talk like us. That's going to have the biggest impact in marketing over the course of the next 5 to 7 years. Because you can't it'll be too easy to have deep fakes
Yeah.
with AI, and we're going to need more real.
Already is too easy. And someone told me, I can't remember who it was, but recently someone told me the closer you are to the averages, the more likely you are going to be confused for AI slop and something that was just
Correct.
generated in 5 seconds. So you want to be not necessarily extreme in any way, but you want to be closer to the extremes than to the averages. And that is the position to be in next.
That's been our philosophy on CRO forever.
There you go.
It's the reason we talk about personas and writing to the different personality types, because when you try to appeal to everybody, you end up
You're
appealing
not
to no
appealing.
one.
Exactly. That's a great point. So if someone's just getting started with marketing right now, CRO, marketing, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
you can't say empathy because we talked about empathy. What's the one skill or one thing that they should focus on and master to stay relevant long term now that everything around us is changing and everyone's telling us AI will do CRO for you, AI agents will analyze the pages and fix everything for you and automatically do God knows what. I mean, this is my favorite book of 2025, by the way. I'm not buying the hype. I'm absolutely
Okay.
not buying the AI hype. So, what is the one thing that a young person entering the field should focus on in 2025?
Listen, spend some time listening and learning from others. Listen to customers, listen to clients. That's a skill that can't go away. Okay. People need to feel like somebody's connecting to them. It's why they're getting attached to their AIs, but it's not the same kind of listening that a human can process.
Exactly.
And so I think that's an important one. And then learn. What's old is always new again, right? We can take principles that have worked 100 years ago, 300 years ago, 3,000 years ago, right? We talked about in our first book, Persuasive Online Copywriting. Aristotle was one of the first people to talk about 4 different personality types, humors of
Right.
people. It's just how people gather information and make decisions. We have different styles. So why not understand that? Take what's worked in the past, keep studying it, and that will never be wrong. That will always work.
Why don't people do that then? Because it's easy to get distracted, or is there something else?
The brain craves novelty,
Hmm.
and it's trained to ignore the things that are routine. And so we get attracted to the bright, shiny lights. That's just normal. But if you look at people in any industry, whether it's in athletics, in politics, and whatever it is, the ones who excel, it's those simple, fundamental conversations. I was at an event with a politician yesterday here at the local chamber. I'm not going to talk about the politics. It's not about the politics. Whether I agree with him, don't agree with him. But I spend time listening to how he communicated, how concrete his words were, how simple he kept things so that people can absorb them.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with him or not, he's a great communicator for that reason. It works.
That's a great point. That's a great point. So not just listening, but learning how to communicate your ideas in an effective way that most people will be able to understand. I think that's the thing, that's AI will not help you with that. AI can push you, but unless you already have an idea of what you want to do,
Correct.
it can push you the wrong path.
And I talk about it in Wayne Fika, in I Think I Swallowed an Elephant. It took me 10 days to craft the first draft because I had all the ideas
Right.
in my head, and it helped me get it down. But it took us 5 months to polish every single one of the words that we used in there. Because, yes, it got it down, and staring at a blank screen is the hardest thing. Great. But when it's a 250-word chapter, every word better matter. And so we had to invest a lot of time into doing that.
So I have one final question, actually.
Sure.
You talk about stories all the time. I completely agree. Stories are, without a story, it's not a human experience. There has to be a story in everything. Even in Talia, our mutual friend, she has a book about emotional
targeting.
In B2B, yes, which is where there's no story. Most people will say there's no stories, there's no emotions. No, you don't want to look like a fool for buying something from a vendor. That's an emotion. It's fear. So how you say that the most important stories are already in the customer's mind. You just need to find them and
intersect them.
Yes, basically, and ride that story to the sale, to whatever you're trying to do. How can listening, of course, yes, but what are other tips that marketers can do? How do you, if you don't have access to the customer's mind, do you do social listening? Do you follow the trends online?
We do mind reading.
Yes, but not all people can do that.
So one, there's certain behaviors that are consistent across populations, right? We know there's some people going to be much more methodical in the way they approach things. We know some people are going to be more spontaneous. We know some people are going to approach things more humanistically, or we know some people are going to approach things in a more competitive style. Okay, so that's an easy one. If at a minimum you looked at your customers with those 4 lenses, you're probably going to get a little bit closer. Just
right.
It's if you think about it almost like landing a plane, I can land it in different directions. So you have to know the angle of approach. That gives you an angle of approach. So that's the first thing. The second thing, and I'm finding this a lot now, I was talking to a friend of mine, Ifat, from Gnome.ai, and she's got a little chat bot, real simple, that goes on people's websites, and you basically edit a couple of documents, and it starts working. And she says, it's not even about the chat bot. It's the conversations that customers are having with that chat bot in real language that gives you such insight into the customer. So if I could take that feedback, and we've been trying to do that since iPerceptions with 4Q with Avinash and myself years ago. Anything we can gather information from the word of mouth of customers is incredible. And I talk about this story in I Think I Swallowed an Elephant as well. We work with a company that's 75 feet full of research that they thought they had on their customers, but it was all the demographic information about them. It's why they spent and where they come from and what they did at their competitor. And until we set up a little research at the front of their place, that we were able to see, oh, when you say these things, it turns people off. When you say these things, oh, it excites them. It's like listening again. It really is not that complicated. It's why I've decided to spend so much time and energy on this local podcast. I want to give more businesses opportunities to share their stories because they need to be heard. They need to have somebody who is willing to guide them to extract that story so they can tell it more powerfully.
Also connecting as directly as possible with people in general, with customers. This is what Mark Cuban recently said. He would bet on this is going to be the next big thing. In-person events, small, large, whatever it is. This is the next huge thing because we are losing that to AI and we're going to try to...
Well, and we lost a lot of it through COVID. And again, a big theme of my book, right? I joined the Round Rock Chamber because my wife and I opened a local business. And I decided to start going to the events, but slowly those events turned into friendships. And it built a big community for me. And having that support of that community after being isolated from COVID and not traveling and not seeing my speaking circuit friends, a lot of us withdrew a lot. A lot of people I know moved to distant towns and don't have those connections. And it's so powerful to be back connected with humans on a regular basis and have those deep conversations that ultimately that's what the joy of life is really about.
I
That
could
I can
not
tell you
agree
from the
more.
gray hairs.
I could not agree more. Well, leaving the gray hairs aside, I could not agree more. Connections with people you care about, yes, and also connections in your local community is something that in a digital life, living on social media and everything, we're forgetting that it exists even. Being able to have a friend that lives across the street or 5 minutes away and see them and have a deep conversation with them at any time it will make you happier. Let it that way.
But here's a funny story to wrap all this up. So last week, my friend Defat from Nome asked me to meet her in the coffee shop, right? She lives not far from me. Her son goes to the same high school as my youngest and where my other kids had gone to. And she wanted to connect and talk about what she's doing, maybe join the chamber because she's been seeing what I've been doing as well. And my friend Fernando is running a live event further down south, and he asked me to come speak and spend a few minutes. But I said, no, I'm doing this podcast this morning, so I can't do it. And he said, do you know anyone else? And I said, yes, let me connect you to Ifat.
Yep.
And they actually knew each other.
Oh,
But it was because of that close connection of seeing her in a coffee shop that she was top of mind, that it was important. And again, perfect timing that they were able to connect. And she's down there presenting, and I'm here with you today. And I think that's awesome for everybody.
And I couldn't be any more honored. I agree with that. So finally, where can listeners find your new book and your podcast?
So they can find my new book on Amazon or on Audible. I Think I Swallowed an Elephant, The Stories We Sell, The Success We Built. It's also available on Kindle. The podcast is called the Rock Solid Round Rock Podcast. Now, I know you're thinking, okay, how's it relevant to me? Because it's all about Round Rock. No, understand Round Rock as a community is the number one fastest growing county. Williamson County is the fastest growing county in the whole United States. It has more than doubled in its valuation in the last 6 years, from about $80 billion to $180 billion. And that's not just because Samsung is moving in near us. That's part of it. But it's because we had 12,500 small businesses like ours open up and hire individuals and grow our businesses here, and the support of a great community. And I wanted to bring all these community leaders and business leaders in so you can hear what makes a great community. It's the partnerships. It's everybody pushing for the same thing because our neighbors matter. Leaders who were former mayors worried about, were they going to leave a community for their grandkids? Okay. That would want to stick around. It's like, there's magic here. And I think you just spend some time listening to these magical people. First, you'll meet some great people. But second of all, you'll understand what it takes to be in a thriving community.
But you will also learn from them and how they're building their businesses, and it's practical advice.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Bryan, I'm so honored you were a guest on No Hacks. I want to thank you. This is going to be such a great episode. And yeah, thank you so much. And I wish you a great day.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
That was an incredible, insightful conversation with Bryan Eisenberg. So many insights to unpack there. So let me just try to go back and look at some of them. We kept going back to the central metaphor from Bryan's book, the idea that we all have these silent elephants that we swallow, these moments of being completely overwhelmed by work, health, life, and Bryan's personal story of regaining his health by focusing on fundamentals, not hacks. I'll say it again because I like the sound of it. Fundamentals, not hacks, is a powerful lesson not just for business, but for life. And that theme of fundamentals, it carried through our entire conversation. The true line of his entire 30-year career is empathy. He even said it, one word, empathy. It all ties back to his biggest point for marketers today. Your messaging and your story are where it all begins. As he said, facts tell, but stories sell. It's about finding the stories already in your customer's mind and connecting with them on an emotional level. And that experiment that we quickly discussed, the press release that went into the LLMs almost instantly, that was mind-blowing. So the fact that AI models accept it as truth almost instantly shows you how much of the world, how much you should trust LLMs in general, but how much the world of SEO and online authority is changing. It used to take days in best cases to rank in traditional SEO. Now this is a different game. So ultimately, Bryan's advice is really, it's timeless. You have to learn to listen in an age when anyone can automate, anyone can produce noise. The ability to truly hear your customer and connect with your community on a deep level is the ultimate competitive advantage. So again, a huge thank you to Bryan for his time and his wisdom. Be sure to check out his new book, I Think I Swallowed an Elephant, and his podcast, The Rock Solid Round Rock. And all the links are in the show notes. And one last thing, if you found this conversation valuable, the best way to support the show is to leave a quick rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It takes less than a minute, but it makes a huge difference in helping others discover No Hacks and hopefully enjoy it. Sharing the podcast with a friend or colleague who might enjoy it also goes a long way. And as always, thank you for listening to No Hacks.